Hi, my name is Andrew Livingston. I'm your lecturer for this module. This is Building Information Modelling and Building Standards Remote Virtual Inspection, all within the one module. So we've got two cohorts of students. We've got the first cohort that are distance learners, facility management, completing the MSc. And then we've got a cohort of architectural technologists also doing an MSc. Both cohorts of students or learners will be doing the exact same module with the exact same brief, no change to it. The program is a challenge-based learning module. However, there are taught material content within that, and that's the Building Standards Remote Virtual Inspection. That's a taught content section. There's a report for that section, and that report will be worth 20%. But the main thrust of the module will be this retrofit project portfolio, and that's where the challenge-based learning component comes in. It's worth 80% of the module. So this video today is an introduction to the whole module. We won't necessarily have videos each week, but from time to time we may record some videos just in particular to help those that are distance learning. All information that will be provided in class will also be placed on the middle page, so you should be able to complete this module without too much additional help if required, if you're one of the distance learners. I'm going to switch over to the middle page. So this is the middle page again for the whole group of students. We've got my email address at the bottom here. I'll also place on it my desk phone number after this module. We've got a program of the lectures and the content within those lectures. You'll see the sections in red. This is actually the remote virtual inspection content, which is the taught content. And I'll show you some of that later on. And we can see the deadlines for each of the coursework. 1 second to apologise. I'm going to stop the recording for a second. Okay, I'm back now. I do apologise for that. So as I was saying, we've got deadlines for the coursework number 1, Building Standards RVI report, Friday the 14th of March, 4 p.m. Coursework number 2, retrofit project, 80%, deadline 2nd of May, 4 p.m. Both courseworks you'll be uploading onto a submission portal and only in a PDF format, in a singular PDF for each. Again, I'll show you in class and online how that can be achieved. We've got announcements. If I do have any announcements, I'll place announcements in here, which will then email out the whole class at the end of each working day if there's any announcements needed. Introduction and module brief. I've got that already loaded up. I just pull this up just now. This is the module. Now we're looking at the retrofit of a post-1945 construction, or in this case an ex-council house. The reason why we're looking at that, it's probably the second biggest archetype in the UK, after pre-1919 as our largest archetype, which is essentially brick and brick building. And in Scotland, we've got rather a large amount of that. So in this example, it's a 3-bedroom, semi-detached house, ex-council, within the West Lothian area. The challenge will be to retrofit the building with no change to the use of the building. This inquiry is to be balanced with the Scottish Government's net zero targets, so we're trying to bring the building up to a higher standard of building performance. In the light of these requirements, in December 2023, the UK Government published its Timber and Construction Roadmap, which at Edinburgh and Napier University was a large part of that, and in particular Professor Robert Hairstands was a key part of that. the key document which aims to increase the use of sustainable timber within construction. The ability to successfully implement the roadmap is dependent upon ensuring those involved in the creation of the built environment, essentially you and myself, have an awareness of the advantages of using sustainable timber and the skills to be able to adopt a timber first based approach to ensure that this timber development TDUK has developed a complementary timber and construction skills action plan. There's the link to that as well. Now a quick summary of what it's touching upon. In line with the skills action plan, the following brief has been created. So the aim of this, you have to work independently, so there's no group working. You must identify a sustainable retrofit proposal, including a material change to the existing building. You'll be given a simplified 3D model of the house as a starting point for the project. The building's performance will need to be improved in line with the Scottish Government's net zero targets, so please think about U values and air permeability. Okay, outputs. Coursework 1. You'll hear a lot more about coursework 1, or you begin full brief for that in week 4. By that point, you'll be well and truly into the learning material for that. That's a fairly straightforward report. And then the second one is Coursework 2 Retrofit Project, weighted to 80% of the overall module. A written report discussing the proposal, complete with detailed drawings suitable for building warrant submission, and there's more details than that. Now, this should be in line with the RIBA Programme of Work Stage 4. If you're not familiar with that, here's a link. But it's essentially you're going to give all the drawings and all the information, all the calculations, everything that you'd expect to have a completed building warrant before the work has been carried out. Boundary conditions for this. We're not expecting you to do any structural calculations at all in this module. However, if you do need some advice, please speak to myself. That's what I am. I'm a structural engineer. Speak to myself. We can either do it in class or in a Teams call or in a group Teams call for the wider body of distance learners. There are some parameters. You should develop and communicate your retrofit proposal. A timber first approach should be taken with respect to the design specification of any new structural elements or even non-structural elements, installation and so forth. You should communicate your design using a detailed three-dimensional data-rich model only, or in other words, a BIM model. All sectional and detailed drawings, including quantity takeoffs, must come from that BIM model. We're not allowed to do a call out, bring it into 2D AutoCAD, then modify it and then bring it back in. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at a true BIM project, true BIM model. Your finalised design models will be uploaded onto Trimble Connect, which is another form of submission portal, but this will be just for your 3D model, either in IFC format or SketchUp format, depending upon what we require. Right, so we've got some resources for you to look at in the meantime. Well, we've got the Scottish Government Planning Development Portal, i.e. the building warrant process. We talk a lot about that within the RBI side of the talk content. We've got the TDUK website associated learning resource, which as Napier students you'll have access to their full suite of data. Construction Information Services, there's the link there. We've also got a link to all of the introduction videos to SketchUp and introduction to BIM within this link here. I'll show you that later on. For guidance, sorry, my cat's coming over here. I'll stop the cat. Right. For guidance, to successfully navigate the task, you should identify. Yeah, you can read through that yourself. That's not a big. Got that schedule again. Now here we go. In the output, you will have to, sorry, I'm getting distracted by my cat, I do apologise. Right, so within this, we'll be looking at the naming protocol for the BIM. You will have to create some content for this. I'll discuss that in class and on recorded videos, so you won't miss out. And there will be shared BIM data from the whole class. Your written report discussing the proposal complete with the following: a warrant cover letter plus the fees calculated from the warrantable works. Show all of your workings in this section. We'll discuss that on Tuesday, and you'll have that covered in the lecture slides for RVI Unit 1. A complete building warrant application, a blank copy has been provided in the Word format. Again, we discussed that in Unit 1 of the RVI, so you should know how to fill out the form. Calculated outputs from the BIM data, providing the following. Please note this will be demonstrated in class in week 11. Actually, it's also in my videos, which I'll show you in a few minutes. A cutting list for all of the materials and products used within the proposal. Costings using the above list and the external communal BIM datasets, which you'll be creating as a class. That's the only part that's a group activity. Listings of all of the relevant products datasets. And URL to relevant cost documents for products used. Again, we'll discuss that in class and in videos later on. Drawings, as listed below, would also be expected. Now, I see drawings, outputs from your BIM model. I've scored out the site plan because this year's project is someone's private house, so we'll not show that, but we will be expecting 4 plans, 1 in 50 or 1 in 100, depending upon elevation sections, 2 max. Demolitions, you may not actually have any demolitions, but you might actually, depending upon what your proposal involves, you would show your takedowns. And then your proposed, I'll try and do your proposed each drawing in 1 page. So 4 plans, elevation sections, and details. Details at 1 in 5, please. Your details include things like your typical construction, foundations, wall junctions, windows, doors, technical specs, and callouts, including calculated U values. For that, probably just show the end result. Don't show all the workings out. For the FM students out there, I'll be giving you access to software. And please just use that software as more like a black box. For the architectural technologists, they'll be getting taught all of this in a different module. So for them, they're okay. They can do whatever way they want. Right, so that's the briefing document. If I go back to the middle page, we've got some useful links. So I've given each student access to Trimble SketchUp Studio, which within that you get SketchUp Pro within that. And please download and install on your own laptops SketchUp Pro. And in this link here is a list of videos that I've made for a different module, but it's taking it's introducing SketchUp, but BIM as an introduction from start to finish. So it's not an introduction purely to SketchUp, it's an introduction to BIM as a follow me approach. So you're putting in the variable names by hand. If you're a Revit user, well, you won't be using Revit on this module, it will be SketchUp on this module throughout. If you are a Revit user, you'll quite often find when you create a wall component, the software will create a name for that wall component, but if you add in extra things, you may have to create names for that within Revit. Within this platform here, you're creating the names for absolutely everything. As a class, we will be discussing and coming up with our own naming protocol in line with what any company would already have. For those that are currently working in industry, you may actually find your company has a BIM naming protocol or within it. And if you're allowed to, only if you're allowed to, it would be amazing if one or two of you could email me a copy of your company's naming protocol. That would be quite nice to discuss in class and show the differences between and why there is differences between company to company. The next section on Moodle, we've got some books for you to look at. More as reference, but maybe very handy. We've got the Trada, or Style TD UK, member design, or Timber member design. I have that here. This book here. It's actually a very, very, very good book, especially for non-structural engineers. It's the sort of thing you would do as a first sizing. So this is designed for architectural technologists, this book, and it's more for these individuals to work out the size of members and designs without the need to go to a structural engineer for the first wave of the design before the engineers get involved. So I highly recommend that book. We've got the Chudley Handbook, again, I discussed that on Tuesday in class. This is a very good book as well, it's a very big book. This is an older version I've got digitally. There's newer versions available in the shops. This is predominantly looks at brick and brick and block style housing, which is prolific south of the border. And in particular, this project here is a brick and brick style, so it's relevant for us in this occasion. We've got the timber frame construction design book by Trada, now TD UK. This is more relevant for the Scottish market for new housing. Perhaps not as relevant for this module, but again, it's a book you want to download and keep. And the Metric Handbook, I'm sure you've all seen this before. It's a very well-known book. Then we've got some links to more data. We've got accredited construction details, Scotland 2010, timber frame junction details, accredited details 2007, robust details, which are the main ones, which when they were originally created, that was by Robin Mackenzie Partnership, which is a part of the Edinburgh and Napier University. We're quite proud of that. And then we've got the Spons Architectural and Builders Pricing Book. If we just switch back to our project brief for a second, we can see that we need to do what? We need to do costings for this. I'm sure I covered it when I discussed it before, but all of our costings, we were building up that communal BIM database, which will actually come from the Spons book or from other reliable sources. So it's a very useful book to know that exists and is aware of. I'll only be asking each student to put in a minimum of 2 entries each, just so that everyone's got the hang of using this book and understanding the book, and to at least know that it's there. It's the sort of thing, if you're not a quantity surveyor, but you want to know how much a square meter of brick wall would cost to build, it's the sort of thing you could go into it and very quickly get a ballpark price up to date for that year. So this is a book that would be very helpful for us because none of us are quantity surveyors. And then each week we will have additional project information, in particular for those students who are distance learning. I will put this information down here for everyone to see. I think I already have it opened up. Here it's here. So there's this file here. So there's also a task involved in this sheet for everyone to do. And this is just a quick, simple SketchUp model of how the build-up of this wall would be, or is. Ex-council house in Scotland, so it's going to have render on the external. That purple is render meant to represent. Then it's brick, cavity brick. It would have started off with no insulation in the middle. We'll discuss that in a minute. And then on the inside, there will be plaster, or there is plaster, adhered onto that brick, the inside leaf. And then you've got a concrete floor On this particular example, it's actually rock, a screed of concrete on top of the rock. And then you've got a 25mm by 50mm batten with softwood, probably pitch pine to be honest, softwood floorboards. And then the current resident of the house, they just put hardwood flooring on top of that, actual junker 22mm beech flooring on top of that. So that's that. The house would have started off originally without any cavity insulation, so it would have been render, brick, 50mm cavity, brick, and then plaster. However, we'll read this text out. This case study analyses the this is a semi-detached three-bedroom ex-council house with principal deeds registered in 1947. The thermal envelope consists of a single glazed timber sash and case windows originally, with solid wood doors, brick, cavity brick walls, uninsulated, clay tiles, uninsulated, unused roof. The suspended timber floor, uninsulated, that's between the ground and the first. The property has a floor area of 95 metres square, meant to be metres square there, consisting of a kitchen, bathroom, 3 bedrooms and 1 reception room, plus storage cupboards situated, situated on a generous 0.1 acre plot with a south facing garden to the rear. So a typical ex-council house. The property has had 2 occupants, changing hands in 1978, and it then purchased from the government in 1994. During the period of ownership by the government, only minor remedial measures were undertaken, including the addition of new windows in the form of timber double glazed installed in 1996 that had since failed. The external doors were replaced with the UPVC double glazed doors in 2020. The cavity wall insulated. The installation date is unknown, but it is confirmed with the borehole testing, which we have. Your first objective for this week is to identify the estimated U values for this building and the estimated air permeability, and provide any references for your source of the information. There's a little table here. So for example, you could go online and have a look at what would be the U value for a house built in 1947 or 1945, and you would get some examples. So please spend a bit of time, have a look what you think that would be. We already, and we can then compare that next week with what you found and what we found. Air permeability just means the air leakage. How we test for that normally is we put a big blower fan on the front door, we'll tape up any vents that are meant to be vents, we'll tape them up, and we'd shut all the windows, shut all the other doors, and we would depressurize the room to 50 kPa, 50 pascals, sorry, and would measure the amount of air that's leaking out of the building per cubic meter divided by the square meter of floor area per hour, and we would get a number for that, and that's the air permeability. And then with this information, we'll use that as a starting point. We will then calculate the space heat requirement for this building. Don't worry, I'll show you all how to do that. And for the AAT students, you'll be doing that anyway within a different module. You could either use the method you use in the other module, or we could use the methods that we use that I will show you as a black box scenario within this module. We'll be looking at the starting point, analysing that, and for your proposal, you will be suggesting various things. We change the windows to newer windows, or we change the wall insulation, if we do external or internal, or if we even do take out the insulation that's currently in the cavity, remove that, and put a more updated material in there, what would that give? And then would you then do further than that? Would you then do additional insulation in the inside or external? And that's a discussion. You give your opinion and you would discuss that with calculations, of course. Go back to here. And then the other part for just now is we've got all of the building standards RBI components, Unit 1, which was delivered on Tuesday. We've got the slides and then the notes. I've got them already open, I believe. Yes, we do. So these are the slides that I presented on Tuesday. And we also have the lecturer's notes as well, the sort of thing that I should have said on each slide. So you can see the additional information. So please take your time. Look at the slides or look at the notes in particular as well as the slides, read through them all, because that will be part of your overall project. Go back to the Moodle page. So we've got 10 units all in, and we'll also have, I'll make some videos. These are last year's videos for space heat requirement and SketchUp help. But I'll do new ones for this year, because it's a different project we've got this year. So we'll be posting videos and giving new information each week. Right, I hope that helps with understanding what this module is and what we'll be doing going forward. And if you have any problems at all whatsoever, please don't hesitate. Please email me or try and contact me in some way, shape or form, and we'll resolve the issues very quickly. Again, tasks for this week. Please download and install SketchUp Pro. And also try and watch all of the 18 videos and take part in the videos, especially if you've never used any drawing package before. Take your time, do each one of them, do them thoroughly, but try and start them as soon as you can. That will be a big part of the module. And then, of course, the last thing I'd like you to do this week, I'll go back to this slide. Try and fill out this table for the estimated current U values of this building with the insulation already added in back in well, we don't know when it was insulated. So try and put the U values in that you would get from resources and also an air permeability. Okay, I think on that note, we'll end the video just now. And if you have any problems at all, please email. Thank you.